Kalen DeBoer, one, it looks like one more off the table for Michigan. Their top three was at one point Kalen DeBoer, Kenny Dillingham, and Jedd Fisch. Got news earlier in the week that Jedd Fisch probably not going to be the guy due to some checks and things like that. Don't want to get super into that. And then Kalen DeBoer gets the win over Oklahoma. It's possible that Michigan could wait things out after New Year's Day to see if Kalen DeBoer loses against Indiana and maybe make some moves there. But overall, that seems like a very risky venture with the transfer portal opening on January 2nd. So that most likely won't happen, which leaves us with the only top three candidate left on the board for Michigan, Kenny Dillingham, head coach over at Arizona State. Zach, what have been your thoughts with the search and everything else, and where we find ourselves at now with Kenny Dillingham being the final of the top three that were first rumored for Michigan's head coaching job?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that DeBoer said no. He's at a top 5 to 10 job. I get, we've both said it doesn't seem like it fits culturally, but I'm not sure Michigan is that much of a better fit, and it's kind of in a bad way right now. So, like, why would you leave Alabama? I think similarly, I don't know what all what's going on with Jedd Fisch, but Washington seems to be on the up and up. I'm not sure why you would leave Washington right now for the where Michigan is currently. So Dillingham, I think I think he makes sense in a lot of ways, right? He's in the Big 12, so not a Big 10 school. He's been very good. He's a young head coach. Had a great season a year ago, made the playoff, had a pretty decent season this year too, 8-4, not what he wanted. And Michigan offers him a lot, right? NIL offers him arguably a top 10 job. I think it's more than arguably. I think it is a top 10 job. You're in the Big Ten, so you have conference stability. And I think that's very attractive, but I really believe Kenny Dillingham when he says he loves Arizona State. He played there. It's his alma mater. Um, or I don't think he played there. I think he just he just graduated from there. Um, but he's from Arizona State. Like he grew up in Arizona. So I think there is a lot of real emotion behind him wanting to stick around. And so it's an interesting it's an interesting battle because on one hand, I think Michigan does offer you more opportunity, but at the same time, Kenny Dillingham, I think, really loves Arizona State. It's also it's terrible timing, and the situation that he would be jumping to is not it's not perfect by any means.
No, I mean you got the administration, really not just the administration, pretty much the entire athletic department under investigation right now. It sounds like Ward Manuel is still part of making the hire, according to reporting from Michigan's On Three site and stuff like that. So the whole thing with Jedd Fisch was apparently there was a background check that was done by the search agency, and apparently Jedd Fisch did not pass that background check. We don't know why. There are 100 different rumors out there, but we're going to leave those rumors alone and just say sounds like Jedd Fisch is out for some reason, did not pass the background check. Sounds like they're being very, very thorough, which, Michigan
I,
should be
I was
as
gonna
well.
say, where were these background checks like the past 10 years?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad they're doing them now. That's the most
Yeah,
important thing.
that's good learning.
Yeah,
Sorry, I shouldn't take pot shots. That was wrong.
you're
Um,
fine. You're fine. I mean, I think there are some Michigan fans that were probably thinking, where were the background checks? Because we could have avoided Sharon Moore, maybe, but who knows?
or
Anyway,
Connor Stallions
well, yeah.
or Matt
Anyway,
Weiss.
uh,
Yeah. Sorry. Anyway.
I was say, you just said you weren't taking pot shots, and then you come back at it.
Yeah. Sorry. It's late. I'm sorry.
Midnight Zach. So you don't know exactly what you're gonna get. Um, no, but it does sound like Ward Manuel's still a part of making this hire. That I do not love that. I do not think Ward Manuel should be a part of this at all. I understand not wanting to fire your athletic director when you're in the middle of having an interim president and also an interim head coach of your football team. but still, like
Mhm.
I don't love that. Obviously, the Michigan fans, don't care much for Lord Manuel and everything else. Sounds like there's a lot of issues going on behind the scenes of certain regents want one thing, the athletic department wants another thing. And it sounds like honestly, you just have too many cooks in the kitchen right now for
Yeah.
Michigan. Which this is something that we highlighted before is not
Mhm.
exactly a super attractive thing for somebody, but the brand of Michigan is still very attractive.
Yeah.
You said a top 10 job, it's arguably a top five job. I know Michigan fans feel like it's a top five job, and I think that they're right there on the cusp, if not a top five job, if for nothing else. The reason, just kind of being the investigation and stuff like that right now. But in the long run, this Michigan job is probably a top five job. I'd say it's probably 4 or 5 in the nation. But I understand this, kind of behind the scenes stuff that's going on. So we'll see what comes of it. Dillingham is kind of playing hardball at this point. He wants more money from Arizona State. He wants the NIL money. He wants more money for his coaches. Arizona State, they're kind of, sounds like they're kind of like, why would we give you more money for your coaches when you don't exactly have the best assistant coaches on your coaching staff? Are you just trying to get more money for your guys when maybe they've not deserved it? It's great you went to the playoffs 2 years ago, but what did you do for us this year? You've lost Sam Levitt. You had a whole bunch of guys that are going to the draft now, and you really didn't perform as well as maybe some people thought you would. So there's some concern with that, but overall, seems like Dillingham is going to have quite the decision for himself to make. Does he stick with Arizona State, a place that he's known and loved for years, but a place that he's not getting the financial support to turn it into a big time top tier winner? Or does he go to a place in Michigan that, yes, has some behind the scenes stuff going on right now, investigations and things like that, but if you get through that clearly, this is a no doubt job that can win you a national championship and afford you the brand that would make you, regarded as one of the best head coaches in college football if you're able to do so at Michigan. Zach, with that being said, weighing the options, where do you think that Kenny Dillingham, maybe not a prediction, but just where do you think
Mhm.
he's at right now, and where do you think he's probably leaning?
I I don't know. It's hard because I think if you told me that Michigan, like they fired Sharon Moore because of performance on the field, and there wasn't an athletic director search, I'm like, oh, he's going to Michigan. But the athletic director piece is actually really important, as well as the smoke behind the morality. And listen, I know I took pot shots earlier, but Michigan fans, you have to understand, like, there is a stigma about your program right now. And which is the reason why they're running these background checks. And not mostly more for the things that happen with Sharon Moore and others in more of the moral spectrum. But the other thing I just point out, like Michigan people, you said it's probably a top 5 job. Besides Harbaugh, like I don't know if I agree it's a top 5 job. I think it's absolutely a top 10 job. But I mean, Rich Rod was awful. Brady Hoke awful. And Lloyd Carr, I mean, the program was declining under Carr. It really has not been, it's been a top 15 program over the past 25 years in terms of wins. And so I say that to say you're saying that you have a program that wants to be a top 5 program and that it has won a national championship, but has all this turmoil behind it. And now and you're saying either go there where there's a ton of turmoil, but you could have hope to win a national championship, or stay at your university for another year, try to continue to persuade them to give you NIL, and if you don't, then you cut bait and go to a top tier job. I, I just don't know. So I say that to say if I'm Kenny Dillingham, I'm probably leaning ASU, but it's not like a 90-10 lean. It's probably like 55-45 because neither option is great right now.
Well, and it also probably, has to do with what Kenny Dillingham thinks of his team next year. Doesn't have a
Mhm.
quarterback. He's going to have to go into the portal and get a quarterback. Does he feel like he has the NIL funds to do that? We brought up a guy like Aiden Childs. If you have to go into the portal and you're Arizona State and you have to get Aiden Childs, that could work out for you. You're in the Big 12. The Big 12 is not as competitive as not as competitive. The Big 12 does not have as much talent and does not have as much good coaching as the Big 10 does.
Mhm.
Sorry, just the way it is. And so Aiden Childs could have some time to thrive and play well there. But at the same time, I think if you're an Arizona State fan, you're wanting more than that. And if you're Kenny Dillingham, you're probably saying the best we can do is the reject from Michigan State that went 3-9 this year. Come on, like we should be better than this, and we should be able
Mhm.
to go out and get better than this. I think Aiden Childs is a more talented player than that, but that's for another podcast. Overall, I think that this is a very interesting situation. I think that, we'll find out more tomorrow. Kenny Dillingham is scheduled to speak to the media tomorrow. Could this be something that's getting ready to announce an extension? Is this something that's getting ready to talk about something big coming up? I think this has been planned for a while, so it doesn't sound like this has been something that just popped up later this week.
Mhm.
Could he announce that he's going to Michigan tomorrow? Right? I mean, we'll see. But this he does have a press conference tomorrow, and I think we'll learn a lot more after that. Zach,
Yeah.
let's play the scenario game because obviously, if Kenny Dillingham accepts the job, we're going to come on here and talk about what that means for Michigan. That's another
Yep.
podcast. If he does not accept the job, it looks like the top three candidates behind Kenny Dillingham are most likely Kyle Whittingham, for just stepped down at Utah and made it very clear that he stepped down. He is not retiring. He is going to continue to pursue jobs out there. Jeff Brohm, the Louisville head coach that was in strong consideration at Penn State, he got an extension, but Michigan is believed to have a lot of money that they can throw around and sign a coach that even if they've already been extended. And Eli Drinkwitz, I keep saying Drinkwitz, who I believe also signed an extension, but same thing. Michigan should be able to come in and pay him enough money to kind of get away from that extension. We'll see. Zach, what are your thoughts on the three remaining candidates?
Can I ask a question before I weigh in?
Yes.
Do we know why Kyle Whittingham stepped down from Utah? Has he mentioned why?
He talked about he didn't want to stay too long. Like he didn't want to stay and kind of like ruin his reputation type of deal.
Mhm.
And so it sounds like he kind of just wants to move on, have a new challenge. They already had all the stuff in place for him. And it was kind of one of those things where it was like, if I stick around, they're just going to keep saying, why is this guy still here? We have all the stuff. He should retire. And it sounds like
Mm,
he didn't want that.
okay. That makes sense. Um, I love Kyle Whittingham. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. I wouldn't hire him. I think he's in similar fashion, like he's 66. He got Utah to a certain point. They plateaued. Like, and I'm not sure how much he can grow and innovate. And I think you probably need that in this day and age, especially with NIL, running a program, being the CEO of a program. I don't love that. Um, Jeff Brohm, man, I don't think he's ever leaving Louisville. Like that's I think his dream. But also, again, in terms of a culture fit, like he is an offensive guru that we thought was a perfect hire for Purdue because of the whole basketball on grass idea. That's not Michigan. And I understand that some people want to get away from the Michigan man mantra and the, you know, ground and pound, but you don't want to get that far from it. I don't think Jeff Brom's a great, like, I don't think he'd be a good fit there.
He would be good for Bryce Underwood, though. I mean, the
Yeah,
dude, the dude turned Aiden O'Connell into an NFL quarterback.
that's true.
Tyler Shook got drafted last year after a year with Jeff Brohm, or what was it, 2 years with Jeff Brohm.
But you can't. Here's the thing, and I know people will disagree with me on this. You can't just think short term.
No, you can't. But in this situation, if you are thinking we have to do whatever we can to keep Bryce Underwood and give him a career, because I think if you're Michigan, you want to turn this idea around that Michigan can't develop quarterbacks, right? Because if Michigan gets the number one quarterback in the country, number one player in the country, from their states. They bring him in, they pay him a buttload of money, and they cannot develop him and turn him into a first round pick. I mean, he's probably going to be a first round pick regardless because of traits and everything else. But if they can't turn him into a highly regarded player that everybody believes in and says he's going to do a great job, you're going to continue to see the notion out there that Michigan can't develop quarterbacks. And I think if you're a Michigan fan, you probably want that narrative to change because you did turn JJ McCarthy into a first round pick. If you get Bryce Underwood to be a first round pick, that would be there too. But the narrative still remains. I mean, Bryce Underwood said it himself in one of his interviews. But obviously, he thinks that's narrative has changed or is changing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Brohm would be the best in terms of development. I'm thinking whole culture. I just don't know if it's a good fit.
Yeah.
Which is why I would, out of those three, if I had to pick one, which I mean, I think you and I are both on the same page that if we're picking anybody for next year, it's Biff Poggi. Which I know people will get,
Which the Michigan fans do not want at all.
and I
Have
get
you
it.
seen the comment section when we bring them up?
I did, and I've chosen that I will not look at it anymore. But y'all are crazy. But Drinkwitz out of those three would be the one. Similar to Penn State, I thought Eli Drinkwitz was the best option then. Out of the one aside from Matt Campbell, I think Drinkwitz would be the best option. But again, I don't think he's a slam dunk.
Well, and I also don't think Drinkwitz is leaving Missouri.
Yeah.
Eric came on and talked about it on the episode when we talked about scary hires and everything, and he pointed out quite clearly that Drinkwitz has planted down home base at Missouri very very well. His wife is a big part of the school system there. He's got young children that are in the school system and everything else, and he he's about as family guy as you can be as a head coach in college football. He's very much with that and everything. So I think it's going to take a lot to pull him away from Missouri, especially since
Mhm.
Missouri very much so wants to keep him around. It sounds like. I
Yeah.
know not every Missouri fan is in love with Drinkwitz or anything, but I think he's taken that program close to the ceiling of what they can be, and he stuck around there a little bit. So I
Yeah.
honestly, Zach, I hate to say it, but I think Kyle Whittingham might be the best option here. I'm with you. I know he's older. He's 66 years old. It's only 2 years older than Kirk Cinetti, though. He's older. He's a little old school, but if you're looking for a guy to come in, get the program right, get the program under control, get the players under control, and maybe he leaves after 2 years, and you know, it's a it's him leaving, and it's on good terms, and you go look for a coach, and you're able to hire a coach after that when you're in a much better time as an athletic department. Honestly, at this point, I'm for either Kyle Whittingham or Biff Poggi. You know, I think Kyle Whittingham is probably a little bit better because of the prestige of it is better
Mhm.
than keeping your interim on because that doesn't exactly look great. And I don't think Michigan wants to look bad in this situation. But overall, I think either one of them could stabilize the program, get it right for a year or two, and then you go out and you try to make the big fish hire with somebody like Kalen DeBoer or something like that when it's better timing for you. Because, like you said,
Yeah.
it's terrible timing right now.
Yeah. I appreciate that perspective because I hadn't thought about it, but the fact that Kyle Whittingham, similar Brian Kelly, that they don't have a job right now. And so they don't have to be thinking about bowl games and playoffs and appeasing old schools. They just say, "Hey, we're available." And I think Kyle Whittingham, listen, if we're talking about Kyle Whittingham versus Brian Kelly, 1,000% Kyle Whittingham. Like that's
Yes.
not even a question.
Gold star for
Um,
Michigan that they've not seriously considered Brian Kelly throughout all of this.
I good, good. Let him continue to flounder. Um, I don't want to be mean to people, but there are things that Brian
People
Kelly,
understand what you're saying. Yeah,
yeah,
you
there are
don't
things that
have to continue on.
yeah, okay, thanks.
All right. Anything else on the coaching search or anything like that? We've made our thoughts known about Biff Poggi. We give our thoughts on the three remaining candidates. We'll see what happens with Kenny Dillingham. And whatever happens here, you can guarantee that Zach and I will be on and talking about whatever happens, or at least me if Zach is busy when it happens. But Zach and I will definitely address it at some point. Any final thoughts, Zach?
My main thought, and this is, I would just urge Michigan fans to be patient. And that I think that's been even behind some of the Biff stuff. Like, just understand. I know you guys want it to get fixed. This is going to take time, and there's a lot of healing that still needs to happen. Both, I mean, obviously with Sharon Moore's family, but also with a lot of these players who I'm sure looked up to Sharon Moore, and just understand that this the coaching search is part of this, but you just gotta be patient with this whole thing. This is very different than getting fired because you were bad at your job.
In a way, this would be a whole lot simpler, and I think that this would be a whole lot more clear cut if Sharon Moore is just fired because he was bad at his job.
Yeah.
But regardless, whatever happens here, Michigan will, elevate their head coach. Sharon Moore was not a good head coach. Obviously, he was not doing things well off the field either, but on the field, he was not doing well, and they're going to get a better head coach. Even if it is Biff Poggi, he's still a better head coach. This team looked better under Biff Poggi than they did under Sharon Moore. So thanks for listening, everybody. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.